Hello and welcome to another episode of Cooking from Quarantine. Can you believe we're still cooking from quarantine? This is total and complete bullshit, but we're staying home, we're staying safe, we're staying, as healthy as we can. And so today we're going to cook a special dish that I rarely cook, but it's in season and, it's not like we have anything better to do. So today we are searing scallops. Scallops are these adorable little dudes. These are, there's a difference between sea scallops and diver scallops. One of them is really thick and humongous. I think those are the diver scallops, and these are sea scallops. I wonder if they say on here. Yes, local dry sea scallops. Okay, great. So diver scallops are twice as thick. So if you buy diver scallops because that's all you have available at your grocery store, just butterfly them. Cut them in half, equatorially. But if you have regular old sea scallops, they're fine to use as is. Scallops cook really quickly, so it's not like a crazy dish that you have to watch and wait and all of that. It's a quick dish. They take to searing really beautifully. They're a crowd pleaser because they're a really mild, sweet fish. So anybody who's a little bit of a picky eater, they'll try white fishes like halibut and things like that, scallops are another good one to kind of lay on them. So today we're going to need, this is 1 pound of scallops. I think this is 1 pound. It feels like a pound of scallops. 1.13 pounds. Thank you, Fresh Direct. I'm using Wondra to lightly coat them a little bit before I sear them. You can use all-purpose flour. That's absolutely fine. I happen to like Wondra when I'm coating fish with it because it's not as thick, and so I find that it gets a nicer sear and it's super light. But use what you have in the house, or don't use any flour. I find it makes a nicer sear. It's not like it adds a whole bunch of bread to the dish. So I'm using Wondra. You could use all-purpose flour or no flour. Pounds of sea scallops or diver scallops halved. We're going to be using a little bit of white wine, whatever kind of white wine you like or have in the house. Mine is a white Bordeaux Sauvignon Blanc. It's a 2016. I don't know anything about wine. If you don't like cooking with wine, just use more lemons in the dish. You need something for the acidity and to deglaze the pan, which brings us to lemons. We need a lemon, half of any kind of sweet onion, Vidalia, yellow onions, all fine. Ideally, you would use 1 whole shallot. I happen to not have shallots in the house. Most home cooks don't usually have shallots because it's a very restaurant type of vegetable. Which is why restaurant cooking tastes so good, because shallots are much more mild than onions are, but I'm using half an onion instead of a whole shallot. We're going to need 1 clove of garlic. I know that's not much garlic compared to what I usually cook with. Usually I say, garlic is measured with your heart, etc. Just 1, all minced up. You want to dice the onion very small and fine, and under here somewhere is also our garlic, minced even finer. I'm going to be using white pepper. If you only have black pepper in the house, use black pepper. Which reminds me, I also need salt. I use kosher salt in everything. It's a really nice mild salt. But yeah, so white pepper I happen to like with fish, but if you have black pepper, use that. It's fine. A little bit of parsley, mostly for garnish, but it does add a brightness to the finished product. And butter. You can use olive oil if you'd like, if that's what you've got. But for frying it up, for the mixture with the flour, I want the sauce to be at least a little bit thickened, so we're going to be using butter, but either way is fine. We're also going to need a very hot, very large pan. I'm using my All-Clad enormous stainless steel frying pan because of the amount of surface area it has. This is a very important dish to not crowd the pan with. I know I say don't crowd the pan kind of a lot when we're frying, but especially with scallops because they could be pretty waterlogged, and you don't want boiled scallops. They're going to taste like rubber bands. So nice big pan, and so we're going to dredge our scallops before throwing them into the frying pan. So let's get some Wondra going into our, now I need the quick pour side. How much of this do you use to dredge? Like enough that everything's sufficiently dredged. Probably about a cup is all you need. But you know, if you need less, great. And if you need more, add more. Let's say about a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to use my white pepper, but at this point you can grind in your black pepper because we grind pepper now. Roughly a half a teaspoon, a little more, why not? It's quarantine, it's, you know, go crazy. Okay, I love the smell of white pepper. It's already starting to smell like we got something good in here. Where's my whisk? Let's do this like we've cooked before. We're going to whisk all of these ingredients together just to make sure they're really combined. Okay. And we're just going for like a light dusting. So you're going to take a couple of your scallops, plop them in, do a quick turn, just so that they're kind of coated. Don't need any excess on it. You can shake them off. So I'm going to continue dredging these scallops, and I will meet you over at the stove when we're ready to start searing. Who's ready to sear some scallops? Let's get a medium flame, kind of medium high. We do want to sear. Medium high flame underneath our pan. And grab our butter, probably like, I don't know, 2 tablespoons of butter is what we'll be using. Get our scallops ready and have our chopped veggies ready, because this is actually a different order than we usually do things in. I have my rubber spatula here, regular spatula here, which is, yes, shaped like a guitar, because we're awesome in our family. Okay, the butter's starting to melt. Pan's getting nice and hot. And you do want to wait until the pan is hot to be able to start throwing the scallops in. Let's turn the heat up a little bit because I don't think it's quite hot enough. The butter isn't really bubbling. There we go. Now it's starting to do a little something. Something. Okay, so here we go. Let's show you what's going on in my pan. Take our first couple scallops. Now remember, scallops are not fatty, so they're not going to like immediately start searing. I mean, making that like loud sear sound like meat does when it hits the warm pan. Warm, hot. It should be a hot pan. And you do want to try to get all of the scallops into the pan at once. I know I said don't crowd the pan, and you shouldn't, but we do want all of them kind of flavored with the same things at the same time. And so if you can get all of them into the pan at once, that is definitely preferable. So we're going to let these sit. Do not move them, do not touch them, do not, try to play chef and flip them over. You just want to put them in and let them sear, because that's how we're going to get those really good brown spots on them. So let's wash our paws off a little. Now, I wish I had a set of tongs, which I usually do, but for whatever reason, my tongs have gone missing. My tongs. You know what, maybe I'll try this little contraption. We bought this. It's like giant tweezers. It's used often in Asian cooking. So maybe that'll be good for flipping. Okay, so while our scallops are searing on their first side, we're going to take our diced half onion and clove of garlic and get it all into the pan. That's about a minute or two into our scallops searing. This is a hot dish. We don't want burnt garlic. So you put it in once your scallops are like roughly halfway done on one side. What does halfway done look like? Well, that's why you gotta just keep cooking until you get it right sometimes. Okay, let's see if our scallops look ready to turn. That's a little light for a sear. Let's see this guy. That's a bit of a darker sear, but it looks like they all kind of need one more minute. And with fish, basically the rule of thumb is once you're going, I think that's maybe close to done, it's done. It might even be a little bit past done. Fish does not have a terribly high heat threshold. I think that's why people are afraid to cook it at home. So fish is pretty easy to fuck up, but we're also not talking about like spending a ton of time doing anything. So, you know, just keep an eye on the food and it will tell you when it's time. And there's also hot spots in your pan, remember? So some pieces might be ready to turn before others. That one's not ready yet. That one is probably ready when we started. Come on, dude. Yeah, this is probably not the tool to be using since I didn't really want to be puncturing these. Yeah, the ones toward the middle, weirdly, are not quite searing. That's a nice sear. That's a nice sear, too. Okay, so we're getting there. Keep mixing around the onions and garlic. Oh, flip that guy back over. What are you doing, buddy? Don't jump out. Because these onions and garlic are part of the sauce that we're going to be kind of building around these. Let's see, can we flip the rest of these guys? No. How come some of you aren't cooking? It's because I'm filming you. You trying to embarrass me, scallops? This is how you know that you've been quarantining too long. You start talking to your food as it cooks. Okay, now that most of them have been turned to sear, and we have onion and garlic starting to make this what's called fond on the bottom of our pan, which is basically like a fancy French word for saying it's starting to stick. We're going to pour in about 1/3 cup of white wine. White wine does not have enough alcohol content to ignite, so don't worry about a flambe situation. Doesn't matter how hot it gets, it's not going to ignite. And now you can start playing chef a little and, you know, flipping things over and making them look all cool. And you really want to start trying to scrape up all the little bits of our fond that are at the bottom of the pan. I'll show you. You know, it hasn't been that long and these are already almost done. So see how because of the alcohol content, the butter, And the flour that we use, it's starting to make a little bit of a sauce. I actually am going to add a little bit more white wine to this because I did kind of a short pour. Let the alcohol cook off. I'm also going to now put in one last, like, little kind of half tablespoon, come on dude, of butter into the pan just to get a nice, like, glossy finish on these, because I know it hasn't been that long, but we're basically done cooking. Show you again where we are in our scallop journey. See, and all the color, all of that we have in there, this brown color, that's all natural from what's been cooking off. We didn't add anything colorful to this, and yet it's this beautiful dish. Okay, I'm definitely very close to overcooking the scallops. Remember, it's going to continue to cook a little bit when we take it off the stove. So the onions are translucent, the scallops are nearly cooked through. It's time to move these off the stove. I'll meet you back at the counter. So we've taken our scallops off the heat. They're still, you can see the steam coming off of them. While they're warm, we're going to do two more things. We're going to add the juice of half a lemon, just squeeze it right over the plate, just directly on there. We're going to take a little bit of our Italian flat leaf parsley, just get a little bit. Don't over chop your herbs, that's what makes them turn black. Just a rough chop is fine. We're just trying to add a little bit of brightness and springiness to our dish. And before we serve it to anyone, we should probably give it a little taste test just for, quality control. Let's take a little half a scallop, get it all in with those juices. Really beautiful. The scallops are super tender. Just a hint of that bitterness from the white wine. Really aromatic. The lemon adds a perfect contrast to the wine. Really a beautiful dish, and look, it took almost no time, and we have something that, like, honestly, if I got served this in a restaurant, I would be pretty happy with it. So enjoy. Let me know how your scallop endeavors go, and I'll see you next time on Cooking from Quarantine. Bye.